Testing the microphone. Hello? Yeah. Okay. What's up? What's up? Let's rebuild our compiler. Trying to find. Okay, this is the email I was looking for. Email is on the other screen where you cannot see. Okay. I never remember where things are. Okay. This probably still crashes. This was checked in. Yep. Okay. Now, if we run it in the debug compiler, the claim is that it will assert in the front end. So this looks like it's a backend bug because the LLVM backend crashes and the x64 backend doesn't. But it's really just sometimes the x64 backend is less picky. And so we have a debug compiler here. And this, we are saying, asserts in the front end. Yes, it's asserting during type checking. It's asserting that an operator is a dot operator, but it's not. What is that all about? I don't know. Let's look. So we want test fuzz crasher 61. Why do you have a problem? Maybe const expert dot dereference. Well, this is only supposed to be called on a dot dereference, and I guess it has been called on something else. Question mark. Okay, so question mark was like the optional dot that I put in that the feature was never completed. So like, why is somebody doing what? I guess it's if it's fuzzer output. Yeah, so this is fuzzer output. So it just caught the fact that this was never totally implemented. That's a very easy bug to fix. It looks like the fuzzer decided to generate one. I'll make it produce an error for now. Okay. We should produce the error probably here. Okay. Line 2913. So this is a dereference operation. Says it could be dot or it could be question mark. Question mark was like an auto-nullifying version of dot, which doesn't actually work right now. So I'm going to say report error binary, the operator is not yet implemented. Maybe it won't be. Okay, and then we reported an error, and then we won't crash anymore. And that's all. Well, that's all, folks. Report. Why does my runtime support keep being modified? I keep reverting runtime support.obj and something keeps building it. I don't want it to be rebuilt. It should not be rebuilt as a matter of course. It's annoying to have. Also, it's extra friction to have to revert it all the time. Did someone add something that is building this, and can we take it out? It worries me when things start changing, being rebuilt, and I don't know why. I mean, let me investigate that before I send. Is it like in here? Oh my God, this program is so bad. No, why my runtime support keeps being modified. Oh, I forgot to turn on the camera. Let's do that. Let's turn on the camera because that is how edgy we are. There's a camera. Look at my corner of my apartment. How does the debug information output work with the workspace's metaprogramming? So each workspace, I'm probably going to rename workspace to program or something, because that's all it is each workspace contains a separate program. So you can build multiple programs when you start up the compiler at one time, but any debug information in that program gets written out with it, right? Now you can, of course, have your workspace not save anything in the final step, and then it's a program that just never gets written to disk. If that makes sense. Would it be possible to add safe space so artists don't have to worry about memory management? This is a systems programming language. If you want blueprints, that's a different programming language, which we may also make later. There hasn't really been a briefing. I just started the thing up, and I'm fixing, there's some bugs that have been hanging out in my email. This one that I just fixed is 6 weeks ago. And so like in my Gmail, there's all these starred emails, and after a while there get to be too many and I start to go crazy. It was up to about 119 a while back, now it's down to 50, which is good. And I just wanted to go through and at least get rid of as many of the compiler-related emails from my email backlog as I can. And because computers are really great, over here on the side, we're reinstalling Windows on my laptop in the hopes that it will run acceptably after this. I doubt that it will. Yeah. At least all my starred emails fit on one page in Gmail now. It's not a fan mail. It is not fan mail. I'm actually not doing too bad on email. I think after this weekend, I'll be in good shape. Just in time to go to Taiwan and get behind on email again. Yeah. Let's see. Now I'm reading a comment about whether we should limitedly support some kind of references. I don't remember if there was a bug attached to this, so I'm seeing if there was. I don't think we should add a reference type. It doesn't make sense to me to do that. Although there's ways of doing it where like maybe it's not really a different type. Maybe it just implies different syntax. there wasn't a bug attached to that one. Well, if I get through the emails and there aren't enough bugs, then what happens is we just go look in this folder that we were just in and see if there's other stuff in the folder. Let me see. Nope. I don't think that there should be any standard convention at all for create something on the heap and also initialize it. In terms of procedure names, creating things on the heap is individually on the heap is in general bad practice, and we don't want to encourage that. Ergonomically, we also don't want to make it annoying to program basic things. So, this is why I had a procedure like new that itself does heap allocation and initialization of the type. It's a generic that doesn't know anything about any particular type, and you can write your own version if you want. This kind of thing is fine because it is lightweight and small. Having a convention where you say any type should have some standard named routine that allocates something on the heap and also initializes it is very big and also redundant with other functionality. So I do not want to do things that way. Okay, so I was replying to this email about this bit array library, and I'm just going to go look at where it's at and see. I feel like there's an init bit array, make bit array. Okay, this looks like it's already been cleaned up. So maybe I don't need to do anything here. Okay. Well, that's fine. What is this email? This is about polymorphism, using globals and conflicting definitions between. So we're talking about how to better do hash table stuff with compile time code generation. Oh, there is a bug associated with this. Hey, my laptop finished installing. It's completely reset to garbage defaults. And it's beeping at me, which of course is exactly what I want Windows to do. Stop! Like none of the function keys work now, like. Oh, it reset. Okay. Okay. None of the function keys work with or without pressing the FN key. So maybe this laptop is hosed and just has. Stop! It's popping up these stupid notifications about everything that got installed. It just won't stop. And there's no stop giving me these notifications button either. And then I try to pop up things under here and they come under it. Oh, that one went over it. I can't make it go away. I can only click on the button to go check it out. Who made this thing? I am so close to throwing this laptop across the room like I did with that keyboard that one time. What is even going on here? This is like so stupid. Oh my God. Well, we'll see if it at all improves actual Windows performance on this laptop. If it doesn't, then I'll be very sad. Okay, we'll leave additional setup of that till later. Okay, so there was a bug. Dude, I can't remember where anything is in this file tree. Like, why are the crashing things in a different place from the non-crashing bugs? Like, I never remember. Is there a folder called 282? Apparently not. Bug 282. Compiler bug. It's an Why are bugs in examples? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. We need to change this around. I mean, I guess they were bugs in the example programs originally, but they're not that at this point. So I can compile this just fine. I don't know what the problem is. Oh, maybe it's commented. This version results in, okay. So if I uncomment these lines, key methods. So how is that defined? He's got a struct. It's got a hash. And then oh wait, he made a different. What? This is a different hash table. No, that's just, wait, what? Okay, hold on. Okay, so he's using the type slot of the regular hash table to do this experiment where he's passing this key method struct that just has these, but then the point behind this is that you could replace this equal with something more complicated, and you could replace this hash with something more complicated. I prefer if it's just two things to just pass them separately, but what we're really testing here is the general kind of thing that you might do where you might have many things here. Dude, now my laptop, the fan is spinning up. It's just sitting there. It's literally just freshly installed. There's, in principle, nothing running on it, although I'm sure there's a million things running on it and reporting to the NSA and the Chinese government. The fan's just spinning up quite loudly. That's where computers are at today. Will there be a compiler progress demo? I mean, part of the reason, like, I just have a lot to do, and those things take time, and it also takes a lot of energy when people bug me about them all the time. So maybe if I do them less, people will bug me less. What laptop is it? It's a ThinkPad X1 Extreme piece of garbage. Does my company use any real-time messaging program? I think they do, but I do not. I don't think it's good for being focused or getting work done, frankly. Would I consider doing an official compiler progress report video soon? Maybe, but again, like, I don't know, man. I'd just rather sit down and do real work. But maybe it would be a good thing to do. How long have I been using Emacs as my main editor? 28 years. I just answered the real-time messaging program question. Why are you asking that literally 120 seconds after I answered it? Come on, people. What is this? Literally, I just answered that. Okay. So, certainly seems like a compiler bug. It seems like the kind of compiler bug that is going to be a bummer and is not going to be easy to debug on stream. So we may just do an initial investigation and postpone until later, but we'll see. Wait, did I just uncomment that, or was that already? I guess I just did. Okay. Yeah. Attempt to call a procedure that has unresolved polymorphism. Question is why it thinks that. km.hash. Oh. Wait, km. What's km? Is key methods of table.value type. I mean, I guess that's in principle supposed to work. Let's just see what state the compiler's in. Examples, compiler bugs, bug 280TL. What is going? Look, I'm trying to type into this thing, and it pops up a window with the exact same text over the text I'm trying to type in. And everybody wonders, how can you live without an IDE? Why are you saying that you should use a programming language without an IDE? It's such a valuable program. Someone explain what LLVM does in a nutshell. No. Somebody else could do that. I'm thinking about other things. All right. Okay. So I guess we just have to work backwards. It's an operator expression, which is obviously because it's a dot call. The left is an identifier. So now let's look at that. My guess is something's going on here. So it's KM. So like here, okay. So if I do this, maybe it works. I just want to, yeah, type mismatch. So I don't know, like this wouldn't even work. It's just dying before it gets that far. This is supposed to be probably table.key type anyway. Okay, so that's a bug. I don't think that's going to change anything. Yeah, so we get this unresolved polymorphism, but it works here where we pass key methods table.key type. So what's going on is this thing here is like not we're like not correctly waiting till this is finished or something if this is a value on the right hand side. Like if you say it explicitly here, then it's going to be computed. Like this type has to get resolved before this entire line of code can happen. And that's not really true here. This is yet another one of these things where we have to deal with out of order compilation and C++ doesn't. So there is a part when we're resolving overloads for a procedure. Maybe we just have to stop in there for this call and see what is going on. Although actually it's not it's not entirely clear. Given what I've been mumbling so far, it's still not clear to me why this would be a problem. So let's investigate further. Let's get rid of this and that. Too many windows. Okay. Better. So we're looking here. This identifier. Does it have a substitution? No. Resolved scope entry. It's in the constants block of, because it's bound to a polymorphic variable. Yes, that makes sense. That is correct. So this is a declaration that we are bound to, and we go there, and we say it's bound to a type. Now I'm guessing this type is still polymorphic for some reason, which is weird. Shouldn't be. It's a polymorph of key methods. Def and flags 544. 512 is polymorphic, I believe. Yep. That's 512. Type definition is polymorphic. Well, why? Why? Let's look at the struct. It's key methods dot poly. It's got a constants block. Constants block only has one member. Right, that member would be the type. Yeah, so really the error is here somewhere, honestly. Although I don't know why. I don't know why it would come out differently in these two cases. But this thing I don't think should be flagged polymorphic at all. That doesn't really make sense. Let's look at the defined type here. Yeah, that's the same thing. So we could catch where this thing gets polymorphed and then step through to figure out why that flag is getting set. But we might be able to tell just by looking some more. It's just annoying. Like this debugger, it's not good for looking at data structures. In fact, it's worse than ever before because of just all the visual spam. It's just hard to see things. So in the constants block, where is that? So we have one member. What? Just happened? Okay, so this is a declaration. Good. Okay. All right, this is the argument to that polymorphic struct. Right, so it's got the identifier is K, and you ask what the hell does K mean? Well, if you look at key methods, K is the type argument there. So we're looking at what is this thing? If this is actually bound to a constant, which it should be, then we shouldn't be polymorphic. So what I wonder if this went wrong in some way, because we're looking up, like table is a polymorphic type. Oh. I mean, here's the thing. This is a polymorphic type. You want to say key methods of table.keyType, but this is after table is resolved. Like, what happens if we decide to dereference this before table is resolved? Then it's not good. How can we get around this? Let's make sure this is the problem first. This is a relatively sophisticated problem. Like, table doesn't look polymorphic, but like, this is a struct with arguments where you have to supply the arguments to make it concrete. Okay. So the expression is what? It's a type definition. It is polymorphic, which is a bummer. That is a bummer. It's not that much of a bummer. Yeah, okay. So this is our generic type that the compiler uses when it says, like, look, you're trying to use a polymorphic type. It's not a thing. Don't really try and use it. So yeah, we are referring to this, and this isn't ready, and we're not realizing it's not ready. Problem is, what do we do about that? Why aren't I on a team? You mean like a Twitch team? What Twitch programming team do you suggest that I should be on? Live coders. What would that team do for me? How's progress going? We fixed a couple bugs. .NET Stream Team. Oh yeah. That guy who tweeted, maybe if you're not excited about this total disaster, you might not be a developer. I'll be on his team. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly do not know right now what's the best way to solve this. It almost feels like there needs to be a stronger language formalism for this kind of a thing, but then that would be annoying for the user, like something more syntactical. That would be annoying for the user. So maybe we just need to detect and understand when this happens. So like this is going to be, we should trace down when this gets resolved. I mean, why does this work? We do this all the time and this works. So maybe it's actually simpler than I'm giving it credit. Yeah, Twitch needs a programming category. I think so. I think so. Now you want to see the tweet? It's in the Discord for fabulous subscribers. Is there a limit on how deep such stuff can go until it breaks? You mean like dereferences like this? In principle, there shouldn't be. In practice right now, there might be. Well, obviously this breaks, so yes. But in terms of the way the system's supposed to work, there actually might be, and I'm not sure. And I want to get, that's one of the things I've been doing this year is cleaning things up and making them more robust. And I generally want to get more clear about exactly what is happening when you combine all these features. And like what the limitations are. Like right now, it's not that easy for me to visualize what happens here in the compiler, which is a little bit not good, right? It's actually much easier than it used to be because the polymorph system used to be a lot messier than it is now. However, it's still not ideal. So yeah, this is the thing I'm wondering is like, okay, we do this, we do this all the time. And that seems to work very consistently. It's not like random. So why does that work and this doesn't seem to? Is it because it's in the expression slot instead of in the type slot? That could be. Something about being in the expression slot means that we don't wait on it properly. Microsoft hosted the new terminal on GitHub. You clone the repo. It's 126,000 lines of code. Well, that's like 3 times as big as this entire compiler. That's bigger than the game Braid by a lot. Will I please make a terminal using the new language? We have a terminal using the new language, right? Like if you run Sokoban, which admittedly we're running the debug build, but if I press F1, I've got a little typey text terminal. It just runs commands, right? Whoops, that command only works in the editor. I don't remember what half the commands are. It runs commands instead of well, in-game commands instead of cons. It's the same basic thing. So you add some stuff to this to let you, actually we do have stuff that let you control it better. It's just like hot loaded from a file, but like it's basically a terminal. So, and it's like 1,000 lines or less. So I don't even, I don't know. Yeah, we use UTF-8. You had to first update Windows for 1 hour. Then you tried it, it was really bad. Then Windows became very slow and you had to revert back to the older Windows version. Oh, was it like a beta version that you had to try or something? Well, we have the ability to make custom levels. I don't know. Dude, there's going to be so many levels. The worrying thing is that novice programmers will believe that that is the baseline for how terminals should be programmed. That is correct. That is the worrying thing. That is the worst thing about all of this. And now, keep in mind that this probably isn't the first step in that process, right? Like, why do programmers at Microsoft think it's okay for a terminal to be 126,000 lines? Well, maybe they grew up looking at equivalent code that was like 80,000 lines or something, right? And they thought that was normal. And then, of course, you want to add and go beyond the things that existed. Why was that thing 80,000 lines? Because someone grew up looking at a 60,000 line thing and thinking that was normal, right? Kind of ran out of generations already. I don't know, because it's not complete generations. I sort of feel like about every 8 years or 6 years even, it's different. Like a programming generation is like 6 years. Are scopes with captures going to make it into the language? I don't know. They don't matter very much as far as I can tell. What do I think about Google Stadia? That's not the kind of question that I'm that interested in asking. Because when you say something like that, you're putting in very little effort and you're asking somebody to expend a lot of effort to tell you things. And if they don't care about the subject that much, which I don't, it's just like, look, whatever, it's a thing. It's one of the news things of 2019. That's what I think about it. All right. What defines this programming generation then? I don't actually know. Basically not knowing anything at all about how computers work, although that's been the last few generations. So what makes this one unique? Historically low productivity, and although that's been true for at least 10 years, I don't know. I'm not connected enough to the most recent cohort of programmers to even know. No, JavaScript and NPM is like 2 or 3 programmer generations ago. Isn't auto chess a puzzle? No. Auto chess is really not a puzzle game. Okay. So what I suspect, the more that I think about this, is that there is some kind of a thing in the polymorph resolution that I don't remember writing because the compiler is very complicated and I probably wrote it a long time ago. But there's some kind of a thing that says if we don't know a type of an argument yet, we sleep on it before we try to resolve or something. And that we don't have that for expression types. But the disturbing thing is it needs to be, it can't be something that like scans from top level because it needs, this can be an arbitrarily deep expression, right? And if we see this, we need to potentially pause. That said, this could also be an arbitrarily deep expression. So my next, because I don't know exactly the right solution for this yet, I'm just going to look a little bit more. Or even just think about it a little bit more. So what happens when you call a procedure? Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. This, oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a gosh darn minute. Okay, the way optional arguments work in the compiler, right? They live here in the procedure declaration, that's fine. If you call the procedure and you provide a value for this argument, this gets ignored because we don't need it, right? Whatever. If you don't provide this, then what happens is, we make up the argument list for your procedure call, and we put the items in, and then we put this in. It just goes right in, right? Now, if we were to naively drop it in, it would end up being polymorphic, which would not be good. So we would need to copy it. So one of the implementation details that I don't like, and that I would like to maybe clean up if it's feasible, but it would be a large compiler restructuring, so I'm not trying to do it right now. So the types of things get stored on the same syntax tree nodes as the original data, which means if you ever want to like take an expression and evaluate it as a different type, you need to copy the whole tree, which in principle isn't really different, but in practice it might be kind of annoying sometimes. And so kind of what we're saying is, if this ends up as an argument to a procedure, this needs to get copied so that we can infer it as a new type, because now we know what table is and all these things. But when we do that, okay, how do we know what table is? Well, when we copy it, when you look up an identifier here, the way it knows where to look up the identifier is just in the scope that encloses this identifier, which will be the argument scope for this procedure. But when we copy this, if we make it be the argument scope for the procedure that it came from, we're just going to get this polymorphic type again, right? We need to like turn it into the argument scope for the polymorphed version of the procedure. It needs to change where it's parented. I'm sure everybody understands that and why it's a thing. So that is a relatively subtle thing. So I kind of wonder if that's all happening correctly. Like someone 2 blocks away is just honking their horn all day. That's great. I suspect this is not happening correctly. So what we can do is we can go back to here. This is the thing that got produced. It was this, this struct. We can just do a super slow breakpoint right now and just see when this thing gets created. That'll let us break in the polymorph that created this, and then we can just look at the state around that at the calling time. I mean, we probably could look at it now, but look at all this spam, dude. It's just so hard to see anything. I need to write my own debugger, man. All right. All right. So this might take a while to run, depending, because we're just every single syntax tree node that we make, we're just checking to see if it's the right one. Oh, but it's a pretty small program, I guess, so maybe it won't take that long. And we did run with no jobs, so it should be the same number. Don't stream next to Windows. Just a safety thing. I don't get it. I mean, this is a window 4 stories up, so I don't think someone is going to walk by naked and break my Twitch terms of service. It's easy to find where I am. Well, yeah. I mean, I run a software company that people can find where I am, so it's not a new problem. Okay. I mean, that's what restraining orders are for. So am I still going to write a simple video codec? Probably not, because somebody did a single file MPEG-1, so I don't really need to do an equivalent. It probably should. That comment probably should be changed. Okay, so we're here. We're creating this struct. For struct instantiation procedure call. Oh boy. Yeah, we might not even be copying it correctly. Oh boy. This is actually even more annoying than I thought, because the whole scenario that I was laying out for you guys was at procedure call time. But like at polymorph resolution time, it needs to happen, because we need to know the type of the argument. Like, let's see what we're even doing here, right? So this is how do I know? Well, let's do this. We can see if this, come on, respond to the click. We can see if this is polymorph from something or not. No, this is the original polymorphic version of the lambda, which means that the real problem is that we're just never even copying and reinferring that thing at all. We need to do it in this case during the polymorph resolution. Are there any leaks in this compiler? Oh, there's tons. We don't care about leaks right now. Leaks don't matter very much until you ship. Is lerp.org dead? Probably. I doubt that I will ever resurrect that particular programming language. I might call something else by that name in the future, though. How does the compiler know it needs to reinfer? Well, that's the million-dollar question. I mean, in this case, it's because this is a polymorphic procedure. We're trying to make it concrete so that you can call it. And all of these things we wouldn't know the types of. Actually, all four of these things we wouldn't know the types of at the start of that. And then well, I imagine that we go into the non-looping polymorph solver. And what that does. All right. I think we went through this in a video at some point. It's probably changed a little bit, but maybe not that much. So what happens is, before we get to this procedure, we go to the type checker and we ask if types match for each of the argument types. And that gives us a set of variables bound to values. And that's what this match solver input is. So this match solver input, each one of those will be something like, there's a type variable called t. And it is bound to this other thing that we don't know what it is, right? And the goal of this is just to loop over that stuff over and over until we find, like, hopefully each time you go through the loop, you manage to put a new piece of information into place. And as long as you keep doing that, you're making progress, and then eventually you could figure out all the types. Now, this assumes, let's look at match solver input. Where is that even defined? It's here. So there's the type wanted, the instantiation. We don't have an expression wanted. We just have an expression given. Expression given is what the person calling the procedure would have passed, right? So basically, I just kicked a game controller off my computer. Like type wanted for each of these would be, let me go back to the example, each like this, right? And then type given would be whatever they passed as this first argument, whatever the type of this is, right? So this, when you declare table as a table of these two types, it turns this polymorphic type concrete, right? And so now table is a concrete type, and then you pass it as the first argument to the procedure, and it's like, oh, well, this is a table, and that's a table, and they match if the variable, whatever the first variable is called is bound to source code location, and whatever the second variable is called is bound to bool. So we do that operation, right? That's all good. We actually might be able to do that much more economically than we do. But that's a different story. So we just got to get it working in this case before we worry about how economical it is. So that gets put, so we get a type wanted, type given. Inst wanted and inst given are just for the those are more like the syntax tree and not the actual type. I think we do that for error reporting purposes or something. So we have the expression given, which is just, what is this? What is the syntax tree of this thing? But we don't have expression wanted, which would be this thing. Like this information, it looks like it just gets thrown away right now, honestly. Which is not very good. So I think I just need to think on this one for a while, because this is like functionality that we're not even trying to do right now, and that's bad. We need to try to do it. So I think the correct solution of this would be to involve building a simpler example. And it would involve me just thinking through, like, okay, wait, what exactly, in very clear steps, what exactly do we need to do here? Because adding more code to handle this case is like, hey, that's going to make the polymorphism more complicated. And if there's one thing we don't want to be more complicated, it's that, because it's already complicated. So I want to think about this in such a way as, how can I make it simpler? Yes. How can I make it simpler? Okay, you know what? I think even though it's been a short stream so far, we're going to take a break soon and get breakfast and go chill. But do people have on-topic or vaguely on-topic programming questions that they would like to ask? Have I ever thought of teaching in college or tutoring to improve the programming generation? I would not try to teach in an existing college. I've thought about starting a school sometime, but let's face it, just way too busy right now to do that. But I wouldn't mind doing it at some point. It wouldn't be an official accredited school. It would be like a separate thing. Do we have a design doc? No. No, there is not one. There are lots of YouTube videos that you could watch. It is a lot of hours of material, and a little bit of it's outdated, but most of it's still accurate. So the polymorphic argument gets dropped, or it's still unresolved and sits there. What happens is it just gets ignored, and then it doesn't get changed at all by this polymorph matching loop. So then when you come to call it eventually, so there's kind of two steps, right? There's actually more than two steps, but you can think of it as two steps. One is make this procedure into the type that you're going to call, and then two, actually call it and do all the type checking at that time and stuff. And so the step one, I think, leaves this in here as just a use of a polymorphic variable, because this was polymorphic in the original thing. All right. And it wouldn't matter, because before I was saying, hey, when we call the procedure, we need to copy this out and reinfer. We may actually be correctly doing that. But it wouldn't matter, because what matters for the purposes of the body of this procedure is the type of this thing. And I think we already fixed that as a polymorphic type during the polymorph resolution process. And, you know, I maybe need to put in some debugging code to detect this and think about it. Like in principle, this is very simple. Like all we're saying here is like, look, this is just... This is just a thing. I wonder, I'm like, what if I just throw in an extra thing here? I'm a little bit scared about what's going to happen. But if I just say that's a polymorphic type, what happens? Okay, then we assert. That's even worse. So we have some things to fix here. It's asserting, I think, because it wasn't able to reduce the expression on the right to a literal. It was trying to bind that variable x to, yeah, I've got some things to do. Got some things to do. Does using handles to reference entities in your games eliminate all pointer fix-ups on deserialization? Or do you still need to do them? I don't tend to do pointer fix-ups. Like, that's just not a thing. That's not how I think about serialization. Like, for entities in a game, you don't want them to be referring to each other with pointers anyway. Because the whole point of an entity is it's a boundary at which you draw where you know that that entity is self-contained and other things that it might want to reference could be destroyed at any time. So you don't want an entity to point at other entities. That's the whole reason that you have those IDs in the first place. We call them entity IDs. You could say handle, whatever, same thing. So, I mean, when we deserialize entity IDs, they just stay entity IDs because that's what we use at runtime to look things up. Have I looked at Rust scopes or expressions? I mean, that's just a functional language thing that's been around since the 1960s. It's fine. I don't care that much about it. It does help in that one specific case of initializing a variable. So we might do it eventually, but it's just not that important right now. We're working on bigger fish that we have to fry. Suppose you still need pointers that need to be saved. For entities, only in very rare cases, well, rare case might not be the right way to say it. There are a couple of cases, and honestly, I'm not sure that I like the way that we handle those in the new engine. So for example, you might have an array on the entity of pointers to materials that are used in rendering. And right now we decided to try serializing and deserializing those as though they were pointers, right? So they stay pointers on the entity, which they're allowed to do because materials don't get deallocated after the engine starts, right? And then we just have a function that maps back and forth, like it knows how to look up the material name and it serializes the name and whatever. And it's like, well, I don't know about that. It causes problems. But maybe the problems are not that hard to fix. But when things try to get too magical, I get suspicious. Let me put it that way. I think if your serialization and deserialization is trying really hard to be magical, then it seems likely that there is a problem. How am I maintaining a living? Well, By publishing video games is the short answer. And by breathing, yes. If I didn't breathe, I would have problems publishing the video games. So yeah, you have to have all your ducks in a row here. How am I maintaining my frothy hot chocolate? I haven't had frothy hot chocolate in a long time. Not since I was in London. It's a bummer. Do you know the types of things you serialize, or do you just binary dump them? No, we know the types. And we don't binary dump them because you want to be able to load them from arbitrary operating systems and so forth. So it's basically a simple protocol that things are written out and read in. And that's how it goes. Do you remember that the game source will be released with the compiler? Yes. Well, it won't be enough of the gameplay source for people to clone the game, because we need to make money off the game, but it'll be the entire engine with lots of stuff. It should be relatively easy to get started in making a game using this engine. The thing KM is set with a default argument or not. Yeah, that's a default argument. So we're trying to say, if you don't pass something for KM, it's going to be this, right? And that is the feature that is not working because our polymorph solver is not thinking about the fact that the type of this can depend on the expression value. We just didn't. Although, again, I think that actually comes down to us not doing the right thing here. I'm basically just going to have to, maybe I'll do this later tonight on another stream. Maybe we'll just step through what happens when this thing polymorphs. It might actually be simpler than I'm making it out to be, honestly. And there's, okay, languages are complicated. There are some features that we're supporting just to be cool that we don't necessarily need to support that might make all this way simpler. For example, if you have a polymorphic struct, you're allowed to polymorph it in pieces. Such that you have a polymorphic struct with fewer arguments. And I demoed that a while back because I thought it was cool. We don't actually use that ability right now, but that might be what's confusing that. Because what might be happening is, like I said, this gets inferred early, and then when we go to match this polymorph, maybe we didn't re-infer this correctly, and then can we even re-infer it correctly? I don't think we can. It's complicated. Yeah, it's complicated. But anyway, what I was trying to say is this last bit is the polymorph solver allows your incoming arguments that you're matching against from your call to be polymorphic simply because to support this feature that we don't really need. And so it might clarify things if we just report an error, if that ever happens, and then we would catch bugs like this much sooner. Yeah, this is problematic. Problematic. think if we put... put like a type of in there. I don't know. This is the kind of thing that the current compiler architecture is not that good at. I would like to think of an amazing way to restructure things to make it better at doing this kind of stuff. How come when you use struct when grouping those polymorphic methods, is that kind of polymorphic namespace? Yeah, that's all we were doing. This is just here to just give us an easy name to refer to a group of things. It works with non-default arguments, yeah. So like this part works and it's doing the same thing. It's doing table.keytype and it works. And that probably would also work if we put a struct around it, like key methods, right? This isn't the part that's breaking it. It's the fact that it's a default argument that's breaking it. Has not including parentheses around while or if statements made parsing harder. No, parsing's not harder. It's just that there's potential. You might parse something as something that the user doesn't expect. And I just decided to experiment with that. And it seems mostly fine so far. Like I don't mind it. I actually prefer not to have the parentheses. Okay, I guess if Casey is streaming in 7 minutes, now 4 minutes maybe we'll just host him when he comes on. I don't know. Is there a... He's hosting me. So that is not the best plan. We'll explode Twitch if I host him. Hostception. Like, yeah, never mind. I'm not going to say my rant there. Yeah, everybody thinks inception means recursion now, when it means putting something into something. Like, okay. Alrighty. This has been a short stream, but you know, I wanted to fire one up in the morning and do a little bit of stuff. Get back in the habit, because we haven't done that many streams in the past week or two. So we'll do some more, and then we'll go to Taiwan, and we'll have horrible hotel Wi-Fi for 2 weeks and not be able to stream again. Axapunks isn't on my curated list. Yeah, I know. I don't like it as much as the other games that are on there. I don't think it's as good as the other Zachtronics games. We have standards here at our Steam game curation list. Can I check Twitter DM? Yeah, I know. It's like... About that whole thing, I'll try to send a thing. It's just I have enough work to do. My to-do list is already so long that when somebody gives me more to-do list items to do, I'm just not very happy about it. That's what's going on there. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. And yeah, we'll try to stream again later today. I'll be thinking about this. I'll be thinking about other things. Actually, we might do some game programming later today because there's some stuff on the game that we can do, as there always is. And that's more visual than me sitting here staring at compiler stuff. So that might be more fun too. Maybe reunited with my Coco. Oh, I've got something better than that. So, a couple of the people who worked at my company who have gone off now to go back and run their own company got me some very fine handmade chocolate truffles that are very good. They're so good. Got a whole box of them. We're going to have some of that. Someone's asking for a link to the curator list. I will find that. That link is... Dude, why did Steam mess up curation groups? They're just so hard. Oh, Casey's up. All right, there's the link, and now we're going to raid Casey, and you can see some more programming, and we'll be back later on. Thank you for coming by, everybody.